Brought the Suburban in today again for a little bit of work. All of the work is done for the safety. We got plates. It's all good to go. So now we can start playing with it, modifying it, making it better. Biggest thing I brought it in for today is the rear springs are very sacked out. It's riding a little low in the rear. So I don't have money to replace the leaf springs right now. So I went into my storage room, got these 3-inch blocks off of I believe they're off a newer Ford, and some new U-bolts. I slapped those in there. I measured it out to the wheel well. The back end is sitting about 2 inches lower than the front. The 3-inch blocks are going to lift it up a little more in the rear, which is perfect. I do not have any use for a leveled truck. As soon as you put an empty trailer on it, it looks like it's just sacked right out. And we don't need to talk about those guys with their noses up in the air and their bumpers dragging. That is just plain wrong. So we will get these blocks in there, make her look a little better, sit a little better, probably drive a little better. And it's all just better. Okay, got her jacked up. Got the tall jack stands under the frame. Actually, my brother's tall jack stands because they were in the shop. And mine are all underneath this Jeep that needs to get finished and out of here so I can have my jack stands back. Or so a customer can have their Jeep back. Anyway. Jack is still under there. I just leave the axle basically at full droop, take a little bit of pressure off. And then I'll do one side at a time. Pull the U-bolts, see if the nuts come off, but I'll probably just end up cutting them because they will be rusty. Put the block in this side, snug them up, do the other side, snug it up, and then tighten everything down, and she'll be done and minty. Alright, both blocks are in. Both sides I had one U-bolt came off, the other one was rusty, not worth messing with. Same on both sides. Now, I did say I like to do one side at a time. You will have to undo the inner U-bolt or the outer, whichever. Inner usually works better. Or cut the inner so you can loosen that side. Otherwise, when you want to tip this axle, you're actually twisting the leaf springs and it just works against you and makes things not fun. So, yeah, I did have to do that. But after I did that, I still couldn't drop the axle down. So, always guarantee there is something that goes wrong on something like this. So what ended up happening is the shocks were holding the axle up. They were barely long enough that full droop was not even allowed because they were maxing the shocks out. So, don't panic. We'll get it back together for church tomorrow. So I went back to my storage room. Had a pair of shocks off of it was a 2002 Dodge 3/4 ton, which are 5 inches longer, extended, which is good because I figured the others was too short anyways, a little bit too short, and I added a 3-inch block, so that's about perfect. And then it's only 1 inch longer compressed, so we're not going to run into any issues there. The only issue I had was there was a bushing in this end, which is not needed on the top for this truck. So, got a big washer on the back side so that I didn't push the bushing right through. I just ground the head on a flange bolt so that it fit nicely inside that bushing and pushed her out of there. Problem solved. I will mention, when you're putting these shocks in there on any vehicle, before you tighten the bolts, make sure the suspension is compressed back under its own weight. Otherwise, after a few bumps, you will tear those bushings out of there. 90% of the time, you probably won't have an issue, but just do it right so that other 10% of the time, you don't wreck them. because I have had that before on a few customer vehicles. All right, there we go. Sitting more like a respectable truck. This side is actually sitting 1.5 inches higher in the rear. The other side is only sitting 1/2 inch higher in the rear. I believe that is basically due to the slope on my floor in the shop. I just took an average before to get a 2-inch difference. So, but yeah, on level ground now we should be about 1 inch higher in the rear, which in my mind is just perfect. Another note, make sure you torque your lug nuts. A lot of guys think it's not necessary. It's very necessary. I have seen many, many, many wheels come loose. And it's not always because they were not torqued, or because they were loose. They come loose because they've been over tightened. That when you over tighten them, it stretches those studs, and it no longer is able to maintain torque, and they back themselves off over time, come loose, and fall off. You may not agree with that, but I'm telling you, that's how it is.